One of the more quaint and historical properties in the area would be this tract of land on nearly 500 acres located on Maple Road. Shulak Farm was originally derived from a 480-acre land tract that the U.S. government sold in 1831. According to the Oakland County Register of Deeds, the land on which the farm now sits was originally sold by the U.S. government to Samuel Bassett of Seneca County, New York on May 28, 1831. The Ron Murray, a North Farmington pioneer, bought 80 acres in 1857 so that he could, along with his two sons, grow fruit, primarily apples, on the land. As we take a closer look at the land's second owners, the Murrays, one can get a feel for what the area once looked like as an active farm. Analysis of tax records over the ensuing years show that Murray probably never greatly improved the land, considering there were no elaborate structures built during his 30 years of ownership. However, a very successful farmer, the Ron Murray, who died in 1878, eventually rose to prominence in the area. His last house, now a Michigan historical landmark, lies about a mile away in Farmington Township on the west side of Halstead Road, just south of 14 Mile. There have been a total of 6 owners of this particular land. Tax records show that Charles Jewell owned the property after purchasing it from the Ron Murray in 1872. County plat map records indicate that as Murray apparently did, so did Jewell use the land more for ancillary purposes, such as an orchard. Jewell, his wife, and their 4 children likely did not live on the land. They instead had a dwelling on the east side of Haggerty Road, just south of Richardson. By 1880, the land belonged to the Young family. 1883 tax records show a W.K. Young as property owner. The land was then handed off to John E. Young, W.K.'s West Bloomfield born son. John owned the property through the early 1900s. At some point, the land was divided off into smaller parcels into the sale to Bernard Schulak. In 1975, Bernard Schulak purchased 4.85 acres of the original 80-acre plot. Walled Lake Schools owned the other 75-plus acres. The property began taking on its present configuration after the Schulak purchase. He and his wife began to creatively personalize their dwelling to reflect their own personal tastes. The Shulak Farm is now under the ownership of the Parks Commission, who purchased the property in 1998. The Red Barn is one of the first features that you notice on the property. It stands at least 3 stories tall and may have been used to store the apples and other farm produce that the Ron Murray grew. The barn currently is not in use, nor is the milk shed. But the milk shed, as with all similar buildings of that era, was where milk was stored before being hauled off to a dairy plant. The Children's Garden currently is undergoing some upgrades to help preserve its historical value, as well as its function today, as a place where children learn about plants and flowers. The original farmhouse now serves as a fully accessible house that includes meeting space for classes put on by Parks and Recreation or for room rentals. What year was the building known as the Schulak House built? But the foundation of the present structure seems to be of pre-1900 construction, yet a home fails to appear on either the 1872 or 1896 West Bloomfield plat maps. Is it possible that the structure now known as the Schulak House was not originally a dwelling? Was it or its nucleus perhaps an outbuilding designed for equipment or apple storage, as these types of structures were not normally featured on the plat map? Or was the original frame structure which sat on the stone foundation the subject of some disaster such as fire? Or did the plat map makers merely make careless omissions? This we may never know, and it's close to impossible to say. The 1917 West Bloomfield plat map is the earliest on record that indicates a structure where the current Schulak House now stands, and John Young's name is the one associated with it. John E. Young died in 1928 and is buried in nearby Commerce Township. A 1927 West Bloomfield plat map indicates at John M. Ryan as the owner of 80 acres. You're encouraged to stop by and walk the historic grounds while taking in a piece of the township's history.